Hello, and welcome to the Global Studies News Network. I'm your host, Chris Getchell. Our top story tonight. A local man has sued Delta Airlines for losing his luggage. Sadly, he lost his case. Film at 11. And now I'm pleased to announce economics. Yes, economics, one of the most intriguing subjects you'll find in global studies. Let's take a closer look at economics. As we look at economies from around the globe, we're going to see what it is about economies that are so important in the countries and cultures that we look at. Economic systems are the things that decide what and how many goods are produced, how they're produced, and then who gets the goods and services. So one type of economy is traditional. A traditional economy really doesn't rely on currency like the economy we're used to, but it relies on the things that people need that have value to them. So the Inuits in near the Arctic, the things that are important to them are the skins they use for clothing and for food, and the tools that they use and make. And so traditional money that we think of as having value doesn't have value to them. Okay, so they use the things that have value to them when they deal with one another in their economy. Now, if they want to be part of our economy, of course, then they would need to have, money like we have to be part of that. And traditional economies are really dying out around the globe. There just aren't that many left because the modern world has been creeping into different cultures around the globe and really pushing out a lot of those traditional ideas of the traditional economy. Now, a market economy is one that we're pretty used to. We live in a type of market economy in the United States, but it's based on supply and demand. So if you look at the graph here on the left, you can see this where this little cross is. That's like the sweet spot for pricing. Here's the demand of goods, here's the supply of goods, and where they cross is about the price that people are willing to pay. An example of supply and demand, I think about, for example, the Super Bowl that the Minnesota hosted 2 or 3 years ago. The tickets for that game were really, really expensive. And the reason was the supply of tickets was limited. So there was about 60,000 tickets total, and that was it. And the demand was extremely high. So people could ask a lot of money for those tickets because there was only a limited supply. And when they were gone, they were gone. And so that's the idea behind supply and demand. When the demand is high and the supply is low, that drives the price down. But if you have a high supply of something and not too many people want it, well, then people want to get rid of that stuff, so they lower the price really low to get rid of it. That's the idea behind supply and demand. Another type of economy is a command economy. Often oligarchies oligarchy type governments have this type of economy where the decisions are made by the government. China, for example, a communist country, the government makes most of the decisions about economics as far as what gets manufactured, how much of it gets manufactured, who gets it. And so, you'll often see, in China, people are often, they may run short on, a necessity, And it's really the government that, the government has to decide how much to make of something or to buy of something for the people. And so uh, it's not the free market economy where people can just go and buy what they need because the government decides how much it is that they're going to get. It's not based on supply and demand. Now, economic growth in a country, we're going to talk about this a lot this year, so this is really important. One way and a common way to talk about a country's economy is to talk about their GDP, which stands for gross domestic product. The gross domestic product is the total amount of goods and services produced in 1 year by a country. So generally speaking, the higher a country's GDP, the better their quality of life is for the people that live there. Okay? And so it's one way, and I want to stress it's not the only way, it's just one way to tell how rich or poor a country is. And it shows if a country's economy is getting better or worse. If the GDP is rising, that means things are going well in the country, people are working, people are spending money. And so in general, that's a good thing for the country. If the GDP is dropping, then that could mean that something's wrong in the economy. People are losing their jobs. They aren't making as many things, which means people aren't spending as much money. So overall, the best thing you want is to see growth in a country's GDP. And if you can raise a country's GDP, you can generally raise the standard of living or the quality of life for the people in that country. Now, standard of living means quality of life. And so in order to have a strong GDP and one that's growing, you need to invest in the human capital through education and training. Now, human capital is the workforce, the people that are working in the economy. And if you have a strong workforce, an educated and well-trained workforce, you're going to be able to produce more goods to be sold in the country and also to be exported to other countries around the globe. So now there's 4 general factors to economic growth: natural resources, human capital, capital goods, and entrepreneurship. Let's look at each one. Natural resources are the gifts of nature. These are the things that a country has, which means they don't have to import them into their country. So, for example, the United States, we are blessed with an enormous amount of natural resources. Resources for energy, ores and metals and oil and coal and wind. Our agriculture system is, the envy around the globe. Our country is blessed with many, many natural resources, which means we don't have to buy much from other countries. Other countries aren't as fortunate. They don't have all the resources they need. And if they don't have the resources they need, that means they have to go out and buy those resources. And so, in general, that means it costs more to make things there, so things can be more expensive, which means their GDP is not going to be as high. So if a country has many natural resources, one, they're fortunate, but 2, they can also then trade those with other countries to get the things that they do need. So in the United States, we're fairly fortunate. Now, human capital is what we talked about earlier. This is the workforce, okay? So if you are healthy, your workforce is healthy, educated, and well-trained, they are more valuable. Human capital is the things that are the people that really create the workforce in the economy. Now, one way to measure human capital is with the literacy rate. And the literacy rate is pretty basic. But that literacy rate means the percent of the population, the percent of the population over 15 that can read and write. In general, okay, the higher your literacy rate, the better educated your workforce is or your human capital is. Now, an entrepreneur is someone that takes a risk to start a business. Okay, and they're important because when they have a successful business, that means they are creating jobs and paying people who are then going to spend money in the economy. All right. The United States is full of entrepreneurs, many, many small businesses that help create the strong economy that we have in the United States today. They create jobs and they lessen unemployment, and they help the GDP grow. So that is economies from around the globe. Um, as we look around the globe, we will be looking at different economies. We'll be checking out the GDP, we'll be checking out the literacy rates, and we'll be seeing if we can figure out what it is about these places around the globe, that helps, that improve. Can they improve their way of life? Are there things that we can do to help them improve? What is it they want to do to improve? Um, and it's remember, GDP is just one of the ways that we'll do that.
Tantalizing. I hope you learned something about economics, because it will be on the test. That's all for today. Good day and good news.